trees, check your pants, check your seeds, sipping herbal tea and fight for menstrual equity. I kick cramps ass. Kick cramps ass. Kick cramps, kick cramps. Kick cramps, kick cramps, kick cramps, kick cramps, kick cramps. You're now tuned in to the Kick Cramps Ass podcast with your host, Brittany Walker, advocating for menstrual equity, period poverty, and womb wellness. New episodes on Menstruation Mondays.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Kick Cramps Ass podcast, where I'm your host, Brittany Walker, the founder of Kick Cramps Ass, the organization. You have made it to, season 2, episode 4, where the positive impact of herbal medicine with Menorrhagia. So today we'll be talking about herbalism and how you can incorporate that into your lifestyle habits in honor of Nutrition Awareness Month. It's the last Monday in March, Monday, March 25th, and we just want to go ahead and kick off the episode with I am power statement. You know, we do that each episode where I represents inspiration, A represents affirmations, and M represents manifestations. And today's I am power statement is I am open to welcoming herbal medicine and alternative holistic methods to achieve optimum womb wellness. Ashe. So there it is. All right, guys. And then the quote of the day is mindfulness is a way of befriending ourselves and our experience by John Kabat-Zinn. So in other words, shift your mind, change the world. When we know better, we do better. In order to make drastic lifestyle changes that are things that you're not accustomed to, things that you're not conditioned to, factors that you never knew about, that you might have been ignorant towards. It all starts with shifting your mind. All right, guys, once you're able to shift your mind and acquire the applicable information to combat whatever chronic ailment that you may be experiencing, and in our situation, we are definitely focusing on uterine ailments and factors surrounding reproductive health for those who menstruate. All right, guys, so shifting your mind, keep that in your forefront. All right, so we typically like to have our tea of the day, our herbs of the day. We always are going to promote our cramp elixir. It is our herbal tea blend that helps reduce cramps and decrease PMS symptoms. It helps get rid of bloating, decreasing the acne you may be experiencing, regulating your blood flow, which we'll be talking about menorrhagia today. So we have our cramp elixir, and I will definitely put the link for this product to our store online through our website on where you can purchase it, because it was the top seller in 2023. All right, but we also have our internal shower. We always like to start the day off with drinking room temperature water to help flush and cleanse out the toxins and impurities that might have been lying stagnant while we were sleeping. And so we talked about internal showers during episode 3 of this season. So be sure to go check out that episode and learn more about the importance of internal showers. So just give me a second as I take a sip, and we can go ahead and get started. So for today's episode, again, talking about herbalism and how herbal medicine is conducive to combating uterine ailments. But we're going to focus on menorrhagia today, which happens to be heavy menstrual bleeding. Now, menorrhagia is one of the diagnoses that I did have that I was able to reverse. So according to the Sell Me report and research study that we're going to be reviewing today, Selmy and their team back in 2022 determined that menorrhagia is actually heavy bleeding during the menstrual period, when the period lasts more than 7 days, or when the uterine bleeding exists between periods. Now, this is a worldwide health problem affecting more than 20% of adolescent girls and more than 50% of women older than the age of 45. So you might wonder, Why am I bleeding a little bit more heavier this month? The average cycle is 3 to 5 days, but you might bleed for 7 to 10. You might even bleed for 14 days. You might notice that you're having bleeding in between your cycles. So even after your period stops, you're still experiencing bleeding up until your next period starts. And we're not talking about just spotting here and there. We're talking about actual blood flow as if you're still on your cycle. Now, common symptoms of menorrhagia include heavy bleeding, like we just mentioned, and it can usually, on average, you can go through one tampon or one pad per hour for several days. Not every 10 hours, not every 8 hours, not every 6, but one tampon or one pad every hour for several days. So that is a common symptom. Another one is lack of sleep due to soaking through your menstrual products. Typically, the average person sleeps 7 to 8 hours a day. If you're having to change your tampon or pad every single hour, that is going to continuously disturb your sleep, and it's going to throw off your sleep pattern. You also bleed longer than 7 days is another common symptom. So anything that's bleeding a consistent flow past that 7 day period is something to be mindful of. You also could pass blood clots larger than a quarter, and that happens to be a frequent aspect of menorrhagia. So while you're on your cycle, in the midst of the heavy blood flow, you're also passing clots larger than a quarter, guys. And you remember a quarter's like that big. So maybe about that big. That's still a pretty large amount, and especially if you're doing that frequently. Another symptom is you may experience like being fatigued or being lethargic very frequently, and that's because of so much blood that you're losing. We've discussed in season 1 and even in episode 1 of season 2 the importance of putting iron in your body. You lose a lot of iron, magnesium, potassium, and phosphorus when you're on your cycle, and losing this much blood with having menorrhagia is going to cause those levels to decrease even more, and that is going to then induce the lethargicism, and you're wanting to be like, why am I so lazy? Why I don't want to get up? Why I don't want to do anything? It's because of all the loss of blood. And then lastly, you might have a presence of fibroids. A lot of individuals who happen to be diagnosed with fibroids also happen to experience menorrhagia. So if you haven't been diagnosed with fibroids, or you might be experiencing some of these symptoms, these are factors that are important for you to consider when you go to your OBGYN and address the symptoms that you have been experiencing. All right, guys. So, and if you are unable to get to an OBGYN, you're having issues getting an appointment soon, then we encourage you to do your own research. Look into menorrhagia. There's books, there's organizations, there are platforms that are made to advocate and spread awareness about this. And so there is a menorrhagia Facebook support group. And there's also a menorrhagia clinic through the Hemophilia Outreach Center. And I'll include both of those links to those sources in the description of this episode, so you could take a gander and peruse around their websites and see if it's something that you would like to align with. All right. So with all the talk about herbalism and menorrhagia, we are talking about a specific research study today. The title of the research is The Effect of Traditional Herbal Medicine Therapy on Menorrhagia, a case report. Now, menorrhagia is an extreme severe version of menorrhagia. And you're already probably thinking, well, you just gave all those symptoms about menorrhagia. How can there be something more severe? There actually is. And so this research study talks about it. And we'll also include the link to this study in the description of this episode. And you will also be able to go to our resource center on our Kick Cramps Ass website and look under the research tab, and you will also see this study listed. All right. So just to give a little background on the study, it was a surgical intervention, and it seems to be the only procedure in the management of uterine fibroid symptoms and people who have menorrhagia or heavy blood flow that are experiencing reproductive health. Now, the objective of the research was to avoid surgical procedures or drug treatments to treat menorrhagia. We talked about at the beginning of this season, guys, how important it is to approach uterine ailments with holistic methods. And that is something that we fight for because we were able to reverse our chronic illnesses and our uterine diagnoses with holistic approaches, meaning no surgery, no medication, no synthetic vitamins or additives to put into our bodies. Everything was done in a holistic way, meaning what we ate, the movement that we had, so our exercise and what we were doing on a daily basis, what we were drinking, the amount of alcohol we were consuming. And when I say drinking, at first I was referring to regular beverages and being mindful of the amount of sugar or added chemicals and things you might be adding into the body. And then alcohol is its own separate subject. Maybe the prescription drugs that you may be taking. Maybe you might be taking over-the-counter pain medication, or you may be taking a prescribed medication that is not conducive to your diagnosis, or it might be having an adverse effect on your body. So this study is proving that you can take holistic approaches to treating uterine ailments. So let's get further into it. Now, the design of this research, it used multiple resources to evaluate and corroborate the theory that nutrition intakes contributes to menorrhagia or fibroids or endometriosis or infertility, PCOS, dysmenorrhea, common uterine ailments that are affecting those of us who menstruate. All right, so they were able to do this study based on one individual. And you might think, well, if you only did it on one person, how is that going to be helpful? We have to start somewhere with these case studies. I have told you guys before that I did a case study on myself for several years before I started working for a holistic cardiologist, where I was able to acquire my own patients. And then once I branched off into my own business and focused on entrepreneurship in the holistic health industry, health and wellness industries, I was able to acquire more participants, clients, and patients that were willing to allow me to use their situations for case studies. But it's okay. It's only one person. We have to start with one. Then if you have a case study with 200 people, 1,000 people, that's great, because the more numbers, then the more likely that people will be positively influenced or impacted on how to make these holistic changes. So I want you to keep that in mind. Just because one person is the focal point of this study does not mean that it cannot work on you either, because it only takes one time and one individual to prove that a theory can work. All right. So it was a 45-year-old single woman with a medical history of thyroidectomy and a myomectomy. All right. So having surgery on the thyroids, and then working on other uterine issues in the body. Now, she did present critical anemia in hemoglobin and complaints of prolonged, excessive, and irregular uterine bleeding. Now, typically when you have anemia, that means that you have a low iron count in the body. Now, we mentioned in our book, NNG's Formula to Kick Cramps Ass, we have a chapter about the world's leading deficiency being iron. And we also talked about how can iron be the world's leading deficiency when it's in all of our meat, our eggs, our sources of proteins that are promoted in the world. When realistically, you could just have a plant source of protein like kale, chickpeas, mushrooms, beans, collard greens. All of these are really great forms of protein as well. Even cacao is a great source of protein that can give you ample amount of what you need on a daily basis for your body to digest and absorb, so that you don't be a part of the statistic of having an iron deficiency. So there should not be anemia if you are consuming an adequate source of iron in the body. All right. Now, Also in this study, there was a pelvic ultrasound done on the individual that showed multiple uterine fibroids, with the largest one measuring 5 centimeters in diameter and another fibroid measuring 3.5 centimeters. So not only did this patient experience fibroids and they're having anemia issues and they had to get these surgeries done, but they're also now experiencing heavy bleeding. Now, this individual, who identifies as she and her, was unresponsive to the drug treatment, and hysterectomy was recommended, but she refused. So her body didn't react well to the prescriptions that the doctors gave her, so she didn't want to do it. Then they offered for her to have a hysterectomy, but she didn't want to do that either, because that is sometimes, and let me not say sometimes, that has now been the primary source of resolution when it comes to uterine ailments, is just to get a hysterectomy. When you take the hysterectomy out of the body of an individual, it deregulates the hormones in the body. It causes mood swings. It causes other factors to happen in the body that the patient might not have been privy to leading up to the hysterectomy. All they heard is hysterectomy is going to stop this bleeding. Hysterectomy is going to stop this pain. Hysterectomy is going to remove this fibroid. No, we have to do our research, because hysterectomies are not the best option when it comes to reproductive health resolutions, because it is still a vital organ that those who menstruate need in their body to sustain, and removing that organ will cause a adverse effect in the body for years and years to come that you're not going to be able to resolve, because that organ has been removed. All right, guys, so that's something to be mindful of. So it is great that this patient decided to reject the hysterectomy and proceed with a holistic alternative. Now, given with her serious condition, she was given a mixture of 2 different medicinal plants, a pennyroyal and a southernwood, and taken as a tea infusion by oral route for 3 consecutive days during 3 consecutive months. All right. Now, the conclusion from consuming these herbs, again, pennyroyal and southernwood, the patient saw a drastic decline in the days that they bled. At first, they had a bleeding intensity score of 102, but now was down to 75. Guys, that's almost a 30% drop in how much this individual was bleeding. And then they noticed that their menstrual cycle was regulated. All right. They started noticing that their symptoms decreased. They noticed the days change. They noticed that they had more control of what to expect with their menstrual cycle. So with that being said, the surgical procedure was avoided and the disappearance of pain and blood clotting was noted. So it wasn't any more blood clotting. The pain had dissipated, and the as frequent as the individual was having to use the pad and tampons had decreased as well. So again, guys, this was just from using only 2 herbs. Imagine if you're using multiple different herbs for uterine ailments, and if you were consuming these on a daily basis, maybe a tea in the morning, maybe a herbal infusion in the afternoon, maybe blending it with like fresh squeezed lemonade or orange juice, consuming these in a tincture is an option as well. So just taking a couple of drops of a tincture and putting it under your tongue every day. So again, guys, there are multiple options to consume herbs and showcase that they are beneficial in decreasing and preventing uterine ailments. So now this study also explored a new approach to treat menorrhagia or Menorrhagia based on the tea fusion consumption. And it also paved a way for future studies to further investigate critical cases of uterine fibroids and other uterine ailments to showcase and see what other herbs could be beneficial in decreasing these issues. Now, other herbs that we would like you to consider is what's listed in our cramp elixir. We have all of our ingredients listed here. It's also on our website. And on our website, we explain what each ingredient does for the body. So we're just going to give you a quick rundown of those items. We have hibiscus. Now, hibiscus helps regulates the menstruation. It improves blood circulation. It's anti-inflammatory, meaning it will decrease your cramps. It regulates your mood and other PMS symptoms. So if you're feeling moody, if you're angry, if you're depressed, if you're seeing that you have a lot of blood going on, if you're seeing that you're not having a lot of blood come out, it helps with the regulation of all of that. We have red raspberry leaf, and it helps tighten your pelvic muscles. It reduces muscle spasms, and it will help regulate PMS symptoms as well. We have calendula, which eliminates bacterial vaginosis and other bacteria that lives around the vaginal area. It decreases your yeast infections. It's antioxidant, and it reduces discharge and bloating. So if you're having issues where you're having extreme discharge, you're having a very strong odor, you might want to consider airing out that area with not wearing any underwear, and then consuming herbs to help flush around that area and kill the bacteria that could be causing the bacterial vaginosis and the yeast infections. Motherwort is another herb in RT. It strengthens uterine muscles. It decreases cramps. It's a hormone regulator and encourages suppressed blood flow. Nettles improves estrogen levels. It regulates blood flow. It's a mood regulator, and it's packed with iron. So you are hearing, as some of these herbs we're talking about, not just cramps, but it's also talking a lot about blood regulation, blood flow, mood stabilizing, hormone stabilizing and regulation, removing bacteria. So guys, this is important. Reducing bloating. We have vervain in our cramp elixir, and that stimulates the gastrointestinal system. It relieves inflammation. It reduces the constipation. So when you have those period poops, that's really, really painful, it will help relieve that strain. It regulates your mood and hormones as well, and it enhances the overall reproductive system. Ashwagandha, it reduces cramps, regulates cycle, and governs blood flow. But I also like ashwagandha because it's great for your memory. It's great for pain that you might have in the body, and it's great for chronic stress. Chash tree is also known as Vitex. It boosts your progesterone, which regulates the estrogen. And we talked about how the different phases in the menstrual cycle. People think the menstrual cycle is the period, and it's not. The menstrual cycle is 4 different phases. The period just happens to be the menstruation phase of the menstrual cycle. So having your progesterone regulated and also assisting with the estrogen is going to be very beneficial. All right. We have mugwort, which stabilizes hormones. It excretes stagnant blood and promotes healthy period. So stagnant blood that is attached to your walls or might be lingering from your last period, cleansing out that will help remove bacteria and odors from your vaginal area and the inside of your walls. And mugwort and motherwort, which we've already mentioned, calendula, those happen to also be herbs that are used in yoni steam. So if you're interested in yoni steaming, or is this something that you've already done, ensure that the base or the majority of the herbs are motherwort, calendula, mugwort, chash tree. Those are very important. We also included ginger, which of course is a spice and not a herb, but it rectifies muscle spasms, pain relief, and controls blood flow. We have turmeric, which is also a spice, governs mood, adjusts hormones, and fights PMS symptoms. We have another spice, cinnamon, which calms nausea, reduces inflammation, and eliminates pain. And lastly, we have both orange peel and lemon pills, which lessen the bloating in the body. It regulates PMS symptoms and weakens spasms and cramps, but also controls your blood flow, reduces stress, and governs the cycle. Now, we have several book suggestions that are also listed in our resource center. Apologize about that, guys. I have an eyelash that's stabbing me in my eye. Okay, sorry about that. We have book suggestions in our resource center that you can go on our website as well. We'll put the link in the description of our bio. But we have plenty of books that are listed that give you different herbs and different things that you can utilize to help learn about herbalism. So all of these books are listed on our website, again, in the Resource Center. And we'll have that description in our bio that's located on our website. All right, guys. So in honor of this month, we're talking about nutrition awareness. All right. We're talking about women's history. It's endometriosis awareness month. And we just want to promote positive health, the lifestyles and habits that you guys can participate in that will help you naturally get rid of the ailments that are hindering your reproductive health and your uterus. All right, guys. So to recap, we discussed herbalism today, and we discussed how it has benefited menorrhagia and how it can also benefit other uterine ailments in the body. So to wrap up Nutrition Awareness Month, we gave you guys different recipes. We gave you guys our routine on what we eat in a day. We talked about herbalism. We talked about how nutrition can combat endometriosis and menstrual symptoms, in which we have all of that research listed on our website. All right, guys, if you have any questions or concerns, we are still accepting listener mail. You could definitely reply to this episode by leaving us a comment, or you can email us at contact@kitkrampsass.org, which will be listed in the description of this bio. All right, guys, and be sure to like our podcast. Share it with somebody that you feel like can resonate. Be sure to comment on it like we just discussed. You can save it for later and come back and do your own research and learn more about issues that may be affecting you or issues that you've noticed have been prevalent in your family, so that you could be the first person to try to prevent or reverse those issues. All right. If you subscribe to our website, you're able to keep up with the latest news, events, and resources, and you receive a 15% off discount when you make your first purchase at our Kit Cramps Ass store. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel, because in addition of having our podcast on there, we also have other content like exercise moves and yoga moves to help you get rid of menstrual cramps, and other tips that are beneficial for you to kick cramps ass. All right, guys. Now, if there's not anything else, we want to send gratitude to you all for tuning in to today's episode. We want to manifest a positive, productive, and peaceful menstrual journey ahead, remainder of the week, remainder of the month. And if there's not anything else, we look forward to talking to you on the next Menstruation Monday. All right, guys. Peace.